Sūrat Al-Qamar is the 54th surah of the Quran with 55 ayat. Some verses refer to the splitting of the moon. Qamar, meaning moon in Arabic, is also a common name among Muslims. Significance of Al-Qamar. Al-Qamar, meaning moon in Arabic, is an important title for Surah 54. It foreshadows the inevitable day of judgment that will divide those who believe from those who disbelieve, those who are destined to paradise and those who are destined to hell. Because this Meccan surah's primary theme centers around the fate of those who disbelieve, the symbolic use of the moon is meant to warn the disbelievers of their impending fate in the first verse. As the hour draws near, the moon is split. Additionally, the crescent moon acts as a vital symbol of Islam and thus, in this instance, may denote the importance of the emerging religion, as lunar cycles determine the structure of the Islamic calendar. Chronology. Surah 54 is wholly Meccan, as its verses demonstrate complex reference and demanding grammatical connections to surrounding verses. Indeed, it is a mixture of exclamatory statements and rhetorical questions directed towards Muhammad, which is yet another reference to the surah's Meccan nature, that God directly addresses Muhammad with personal pronouns, you and your, and differentiates the unbelieving audience from his personal addresses to Muhammad with they and them, strongly indicates that Islam was still in the development phase and that God did not yet have a particularized audience to address. Instead, God merely warns Muhammad of the possible responses that will result from his efforts to spread his message and the resultant punishment that he will inflict upon those who refuse to believe. Officially, this surah is believed to be the 37th surah revealed to Muhammad, as the Egyptian chronology indicates. Noldaki, however, numbers this surah as the 49th chronological surah. The difference in numerical order is perhaps due to the difference in Meccan and Medinan surahs within each edition. For instance, the Egyptian chronology indicates that there are 88 Meccan surahs and 26 Medinan surahs, whereas Noldak's chronology divides the Meccan period into three, with 48 in the first, 21 in the second, and 21 in the third, in addition to 24 Medinan surahs. Themes. This surah clearly directs its message toward the unbelievers in Mecca. Indeed, it covers themes of rejection, truth, and punishment, all of which are addressed in stories of previous peoples. The stories of the people of Noah, the people of Ad, the people of Thamud, the people of Lot, and the people of Pharaoh represent times during which a people refused to believe the word of the above messengers. Consequently, they suffered God's wrath. Each unit follows a similar pattern. First, God describes the people's refusal to believe and the resultant punishment for refusing to accept his warnings. As Carl Ernst writes in How to Read the Quran, surahs from the middle to late Meccan period follow a tripartite division, in which one observes a ring structure, beginning and ending with parallel sections of divine praise, heavy threats for the unbelievers, and staunch affirmations of the revelation. These parts bookend a somewhat larger middle section, which is typically a narrative of prophecy and struggle. Quote, thus, this Meccan surah seems to connect the early Meccan period with the later, as traces of the shorter, more affirmative surahs can be found in particular verses, which resemble powerful oath formulations and generate fear in those who may not fully accept the Islamic faith. Within the parallel sections of the ring-like structure of the surah are narratives of the critical choices that Muhammad's audience will face, whether to act as did the previous peoples and to reject Muhammad's message and endure unbearable consequences, or to accept God as the Lord of mercy, the giver of mercy, and to live eternally among gardens and rivers. Such a choice acts as a testament to God's omnipotence and utter omniscience. First section, God, he claims, is all-knowing, as the surah both begins and ends with a warning that everything is recorded, and everything they do is noted in the records. Every action, great as small, is recorded. The first 8 verses distinctly refer to events on the Day of Judgment, especially the fates of the disbelievers on that hard day. The first verse in particular uses the hour to refer the end times and is in fact used in 46 instances throughout the Quran to make mention of the hour when Allah will judge humankind and punish the unbelievers. This first section is marked by its apocryphal tone and its introduction of the themes of disbelief and failure to heed warnings, which echo through the remainder of the surah. Second section, the middle section of this Quranic surah, which Ernst marks from verse 9 to 42, relates to prior Hebrew and Arab oral traditions to remind the audience of previous instances where the word of Allah was not heeded and stern consequences resulted. The first of the 5 examples is the story of Noah, whose rejection by his own people is relatable to the situation Muhammad found himself in early in his prophetic career. According to the Quran, men referred to both Noah and Muhammad as crazy and Majnun. The same Arabic word is used in both of these references. There are 4 more examples of rejected prophets in the middle section of Surah 54, wherein the stories of Ad, Thamud, Lot, and Pharaoh are mentioned to reiterate the lesson that those who fail to heed Allah's warnings through his messengers will be punished. Take note that the 5 Hebrew Arab stories are told in a manner that assumes the audience has a working knowledge of the myth prior to its telling. In the Quran, unlike the Old Testament, these stories are neither told in their entirety, nor are they told in a chronological narrative. Instead, key points of the story are mentioned in order to bring out an important faith-based lesson from the story, with the assumption that the audience already understands the underlying narrative. For example, the story of Pharaoh only takes up 2 verses in which there is only space to mention that a warning came to his people. They rejected the signs, and Allah overcame them with the seizing of the mighty, the powerful. Something else to note about this middle section is how many times the Quran references itself. In fact, it does so 4 times in the same context, at the end of the first 4 disbeliever examples. Each of these 4 lines reads, "We have made it easy to learn lessons from the Quran. Will anyone take heed?" Quote. Some versions interpret this line to say, "And certainly we have made the Quran easy to remember, but is there anyone who will mind?" Quote. The difference here is important because of the connotation of the Arabic word dhik, which can refer to lessons, the act of remembering, memorization, or recalling, and many other meanings that come from the same root, which is used over 200 times in the Quran. This ayah could be referring to the lessons of faith and morality, and the ease with which they can be gleaned from the Quran as a book. However, it could also be using the word Quran here to refer to its more literal Arabic meaning, which is recitation, rather than referring to the book itself. There is no doubt that this is an occasion where the Quran is self-referential, but it is interesting that in other sections of the Quran, the word Quran itself seems to refer to the word of Allah as it is recited, which includes vowels. Thus, the verse could mean that the surahs are easily remembered because of the poetic and song-like form in the spoken versions, the rhyming schemes, cadences, and robust structure. According to the scripture, Allah then asks who will take on the task of remembering or internalizing these words. The purpose of the middle section of this surah, then, is to draw attention to examples from the past of unbelievers and the punishments, challenging the people of Muhammad's time to finally heed and recognize Allah's prophet. Third section. The final section of the surah returns to an apocryphal tone, warning of the evils that will befall the unbelievers in the end time. Again, the hour is used twice in these final ayat to mention the day of judgment. At the time, those who are guilty are said to be dragged into the fires of hell. As Allah knows that the fate of every group of disbelievers is the same, the time is limited. The last section closes the ring by reverting the narrative back to the introductory section, wherein we read of visual images of the day of judgment. Plus, consistent with Ernst's notions, the surah ends with a flourishing couplet that details the rewards of the dutiful in the afterlife, seated with a most powerful king. The constant repetition in this surah is particularly relevant, as it contributes to the overall development of God's character. In his many rhetorical questions such as, "We have made it easy to learn lessons from the Quran. Will anyone take heed?" and the final question directed towards Muhammad, "Are your disbelievers any better than these?" Quote, firstly, the constant repetition of the Quranic lessons question establishes God as merciful and fair in his punishment. He ensures that he gave the unbelievers full warning and clear direction. However, they chose not to follow his commands and thus deserving of the respective punishments. As the surah ends, however, God asserts his ability to inflict punishment upon the disbelievers. When we ordain something, it happens at once, in the blink of an eye. We have destroyed the likes of you in the past. Will anyone take heed? With this final rhetorical question, God instead establishes the breadth of his power, as he highlights the utter immediacy with which he could rid the earth of the unbelievers. However, he ensures that his omnipotence will benefit the righteous, as they will live secure in the presence of an all-powerful sovereign.